Welcome back. 7:24 is your time on this Friday. And this week, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates for the 11th time. It is the highest rates have ever been since just before the 2007 financial crisis and recession. Personal finance expert Dan Roccato joining us live with what this means for all of us. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for being here.
What's up, Taylor? How you doing?
Good. Okay, so this is the highest rate we've seen in 22 years. Is it going to be enough to curb inflation, or should we expect another one of these?
You know, it's sort of like we're in a tie game right now. We're at the bottom of the ninth. The game is tied. The Federal Reserve is tied with inflation. They're hoping to break this thing once and for all, the fever of inflation, and get down to their target of 2%. I suspect, however, we still have a long way to go. And that could mean another rate increase in September. You and I have no control over that, Taylor. So therefore, you and I have to focus on the things that we can control. The Federal Reserve is not one of them.
Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to people who've maybe been waiting to buy a home, or maybe the people who've been waiting to buy a new car? They need a new car. What would you say?
And that really is the question. Let's focus on what we control. Number one, if you're looking to buy a house, not a lot of great news on the interest rate front. However, a couple little tips. Number one, what we're seeing is a resurgence in seller financing. So you can negotiate perhaps with the seller of that home to either hold part of the mortgage at a lower rate, or in some cases, you might be able to assume their mortgage at a lower rate. So that's something that we haven't seen in years. It's coming back into fashion. Obviously, so we want to take a look at that. Also, what I call the buy now, refi later strategy. My son just bought a home. He's paying a current interest rate on the hope that over the next year or so, those rates will come down. He'll be able to refinance the home. That's a possibility as well. Car buyers, look for those incentives. Consider a lease. I'm not a big lease fan, as you guys know, but when we have interest rates this high, sometimes a subsidized lease by the manufacturer can actually make some sense for some consumers. And finally, if you've got credit cards the size of Wyoming, who doesn't? Consider the avalanche strategy. Start with that highest interest rate card first, Taylor. Let's work on that, and then we'll work on the others. But let's work on the one with the highest rate first.
What else would you say we could do to try to help set ourselves up for financial success right now?
So here's the good news. You know, I'm a big believer in the investment theory of 5 o'clock somewhere. It is 5 o'clock somewhere. If you're a saver, this is really your time, because you can get easily over 5% with very risk averse investments like CDs, treasury bonds, right? So you can get to that 5% number with virtually no risk with your emergency savings or your long-term savings. So there's some good news here with these interest rate hikes for you and I, and when it comes to our savings.
All right, good to know. Dan Roccato, personal finance expert, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Taylor. Have a good weekend.
You too.